Hello, I'm Marj Boyer. I'm talking to a lady called Celia Gage. Now, Celia runs a farm called the Wellbeing Farm, and I'm interested to know why she left what is considered to be a very, very good job in the public sector to go and set up this Wellbeing Farm. I think it's a personal journey, and I think it's a journey about success on a personal level, but also success to date on a business level. Let's go and find out. What I want to talk to you about is the fact that you have come from a public sector background and you're now in a private sector. And I gather you had a very good job in the public sector.
Yes.
Why change it?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the things I get asked a lot about. I think for me, I used to work in the NHS, and I was 14 years in the NHS and did reach a high level position. But I always had that sense of in the NHS, although I loved the NHS and I wouldn't have been in there for 14 years if I didn't, there was always several hurdles and quite a lot of bureaucracy that you needed to go through. And I suppose it was after I had my first child and I suddenly thought, there must be more to life than this, and decided, and people had sort of said to me, you know, you'd be better as an entrepreneur rather than in the NHS. And I just thought, why not give it a go? And an opportunity arose as my partner had a farm and I decided to do something with it.
So you gave up your job in the public sector and you came to the farm and decided you were going to do something with this farm.
Yes.
What were your plans? What were you going to do with the farm?
Right. Well, one of the reasons I gave up my role in the NHS is I'd had a baby and I was called back while on maternity leave by the NHS to say, would I like to do a turnaround director role? And at the time, I'd always loved this sort of you know, go in, sort the problem out, leave, kind of knight in shining armour, kind of, you know, I'd always read up about turnaround. And so to be given the opportunity to do it, I thought I couldn't miss it. So I went in, but turnaround is very much that actually it needs quite a lot of time to bear. It's not an instant fix. And I got quite frustrated because things weren't turning around quickly. And I think that combined with a young baby, under 6 months old, was too much, and actually I went off with work-related stress. And it was actually while I was unstressed that I decided to do something else with my life. And when you're off, and you're signed off from work, and you've always been very busy, it's what do you do with that time? And for me, it was, I went round doing, you know, obviously I had this baby, but also I went round different places and discovered actually there was nowhere to go when you were stressed, and it's quite difficult. And I said, actually, let's take the components of stress and well-being was a big thing at the time, and what if I was to create this place where you would go if you were stressed, then actually it would be you know, in the countryside, in a lovely environment. You'd be doing activities, there'd be like-minded people to meet, and you know, it would be a place for sort of almost like a sanctuary to go. So I basically broke the concept of well-being down and what that meant, and turned that into the functions that I'd put into the Wellbeing Farm. At the same time, I also did a qualification in stress management and organisational stress management to sort of understand what I was doing.
Right. So you set up a Wellbeing Farm.
Yes.
Now, that sounds idyllic. I suspect setting that farm up and that concept up, that company up, wasn't quite as easy. What hurdles did you come across?
No, I mean, the first hurdles were the actual, you know, here we had a farm and I was going to turn this current, what was, you know, working farm into a different business. And the first one was, I think the biggest one first was planning permission. Now I thought that there'd be sort of, when I turned this derelict rundown farm into this business, I thought they'd almost bite my arm off, saying definitely, you know, I was going to create jobs, I was going to transform a derelict farm, I was going to create employment, tourism opportunities, everything else. And that wasn't the case. And it actually took me quite a long time to get the planning permission in the first place. Once you've got the planning permission in place, you think, right, let's get on, let's try and get some money to build it. And again, you know, despite having a huge capital asset, to put against a bank loan. I was rejected after rejected by banks, and it's that whole, you have to go through the funding and how to get the money. And then when you've got that and you actually then start building the farm, there's some big challenges around managing a construction project. I've never managed a construction project before. I've managed several massive projects in the NHS, but not construction. So again, a whole new learning curve there. And then, so that was just prior to opening the farm. And then, you know, sort of, and then when you actually open and start trading, several other things like, you know, managing cash flow and how you go from in a rural, it's hard to create a business anyway from scratch, but creating a business in a rural area from nothing is really hard. And it's the whole marketing, it's the whole, so how you create awareness that you even exist. And then also how you then keep the business going, and the day-to-day problems of living on a farm and everything that brings to it, plus running a business and managing your life, I suppose. So yeah, lots of problems.
So there were many hurdles.
Yes.
You've obviously overcome a lot of those hurdles. How did you overcome those hurdles? What was it about your passion, I suppose, that made you overcome these hurdles and actually create this business as a going concern? What was it that what did you do?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think throughout creating the Wellbeing Farm, it has actually really been a resilience test. You know, overcoming hurdles. I could have fallen several times and given up. And to be quite honest, the pressure's on me of saying, look, just go back to the NHS. You know, secure. I was continually being approached by the NHS. Can you come back? And it's a test of, do you really want to do this? And you know, perseverance, persistence, resilience, all comes into it. I think, you know, you face a hurdle and you've got to look at ways around it, because honestly, I'd have given up several times if I'd have just, you know. I think very much doing your research in the first place and knowing what you want to do in the market. And you know, I've made lots of, it's not been easy at all. I think, you know, people come along and promise you the earth, and I've fallen for it. And to be quite honest, I think that now I've learned there's no such thing as a free breakfast or a free lunch, you know, and put everything in writing and get that all agreed. And I think also one of the problems that I've faced is also, you know, looking after yourself. I've put everything into the business at the cost of sort of like, not cost of anything wrong with me, but personal health has suffered. And I think now I'm in a position to sort of redress the balance, but actually there's an awful lot. And I think don't be afraid to pick up the phone. If you dig around, there is an absolute loads of support. I'll tell you, I reckon I could apply for a grant a week.
Yes.
You know, there's actually an awful lot of funding, and there's an awful lot of business support you can tap into. The problem I find is almost there's too much, and it's where to tap into it and what, and the criteria that they put in place. But it's about continuing to be persistent and enthusiastic and not giving up.
So this business is now up and running. Where are you taking this business? Where is it going?
Well, when I opened the Wellbeing Farm, it was very much around well-being, stress management, what have you. And we launched in the week of the horse meat scandal, you know, March 2013. And everybody wasn't really bothered about well-being, because we had a farm, we were opening this place on a working farm with a cookery school, etc., etc. Everybody wanted to know about the food and the provenance of food. So really the whole model of what I've done within a year has shifted from well-being somewhat to actually almost about provenance of food and sustainability, of which are massive areas. You know, you only have to put a television program on at night to see how many programs are devoted to food, and sustainability isn't going to go away. And the whole because I installed a wind turbine, that then got international sponsorship, and so by two global food manufacturing companies, and I've also got a celebrity television chef coming on board here to head up the cookery school. So to be quite honest, it's where this is going. Having been such a distance in the first year, in all fairness, I don't know where it's almost going to end up. And I think one of these that people always say to me is, although obviously to obtain the bank funding and everything else, I had a great big, very detailed business plan, it's almost been thrown away in some respects, and it's sort of taking me where the market dictates. And this is, I mean, we're now getting into the wedding market. I've never, you know, if an opportunity arises, I'll take it and I'll do it. And I think the 14 years of working in the NHS, and every single time you had an idea, you had to do a business plan, and then you had to do a business case and work it all through. Now, I get up and I have an idea at, say, usually 4 o'clock in the morning, and I can implement it by 8, and there is no barriers and nothing holding me back. And I think that's why we've managed to achieve so much in a year. I have to stabilise myself a little bit for the next year and just develop the business. But to be quite honest, you know, where will it end? I could have Wellbeing Farms everywhere, or else I could just develop this site. It's really as and where it goes to. Really.
So the business from where you started to where you are now has evolved.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
And the business is continuing to evolve.
Very much so. Yes.
So some of the lessons that you have learnt are things like persistence.
Yes.
Things like understand your market, even if your market is changing.
Yes.
Understand
totally.
where it's going.
Yes.
What kind of hints and tips would you give anybody else that's trying to set up a business in whatever area? What kind of principles would you recommend to them?
Right. I mean, you know, you can pick up a business textbook and it'll tell you, like, you know, do your research, do things. And I think that is important. I physically, before I set this up, went round 195 venues right round the country, physically visited them. I did an awful lot of research. I think also, one of the things is when I first set it up, advertising, they're trying to sell you, and I was gullible, I was paying for these adverts, and they don't get you anywhere. I grow my business on word of mouth, social media, Facebook, Twitter, and basically winning awards. I've found awards are really good. They basically give you credibility, they give you some PR coverage, and that's how I'm growing and getting myself known. Don't be just strange, just take opportunities that come. You know, I never thought I'd be a wedding venue. That wasn't even in my business plan until people started coming up to the farm going, wouldn't this be a lovely wedding venue? The next thing, I thought, how am I going to do weddings? Okay, I've got an old livery yard, an indoor riding area, I'll just transform that into a wedding venue. That was done within a matter of 2 months. You know, there's no business plan, there's nothing in there, and some of this you just got to do. If there's enough demand, you just do it and see what happens. With the finance, I mean, even I was battling and funding, and then there's a whole organisation called Access to Finance who will help you. You know, nobody ever told me that. And actually, some of this is about, you know, you can do it a hard way, but just get advice as much as you can. If you've got a problem, there's actually loads of organisations that you can go to for advice and things like that. I think another one is don't underestimate the time it'll take. I am very impatient, extremely impatient, and want everything tomorrow. And for me, I find it quite frustrating. The business, I mean, we've been trading a year and already either been finalists or won in the region of about 15 awards. Sure. And for me, I'm still wanting it to go more. Why can't we win this? You know, and everybody keeps saying to me, Celia, it's not a 1-year plan, it's a 10+ year plan. And, you know, you've achieved all this in your first year. Goodness knows what it's going to be like in year 10, but you've got to calm down a little bit because you just burn yourself out. Don't be afraid of picking up the phone. I when I was building the cookery school, was running out of money. All the money had gone on the project, on the construction costs. I just happened to pick up the phone to one of the top kitchen manufacturers and just say, you're not looking for a cookery school, are you? Or I've looked at your brochure and you don't do much to demonstrate your green credentials. Are you interested in coming on board? And what I thought would be where they would give me a discount. They didn't. They said, what do you want? And kitted out the whole kitchen and cookery school. So to be quite honest, I would, you know, just be a bit brave. Yeah. You know, and don't, you know, you're not going to make yourself look stupid just by a phone call, but don't bother with emails. Pick the phone up and just go and talk to people, and use yourself to sell the business, to be honest.
I think that's absolutely superb, and I think that some of the tips and the advice you've given will help anybody in any sector. Just do it. Just go for it.
Yeah.
But with a little reservation on time and cost.